Mumonkan, case number 18, Tozan's 3 pounds of flax. A monk asked Tozan, "What is Buddha?" Tozan replied, 3 pounds of flax. Mumon's comment. Old Tozan showed off a bit of clam zen. He opened the 2 halves of the shell a little and exposed the liver and the intestines inside. But tell me, where do you see Tozan? Verse. 3 pounds of flax came sweeping along. Intimate were the words, but even more intimate is the mind. Those who argue about right and wrong are those enslaved by right and wrong. Today's koan is quite short, but yet it is considered as one of the more difficult ones. And for some of you, the viewers who stumbled on this video for the first time, let me first elaborate a little bit on the meaning of the koan question. The koan question, which is, what is Buddha? In Zen, the question, what is Buddha, is equivalent to ask, in Advaita, for example, we say, what is consciousness? What is awareness? And in Zen circles, sometimes we also ask ourselves, what is Buddha nature? Or we ask the question, who am I? And in some religious circles, the question that is being asked is, what is God? All these are questions that relate to the same thing. A classical Advaita metaphor, which I will be using today, and which I already used before, would provide you with a taste of this, instead of giving you a notion about this. The metaphor is about the clouds hanging in the sky. For example, take all the visual objects that you can see here. I couldn't find Flax because of the lockdown. Every shop is closed here in Vienna, but I looked in the kitchen what is available and I found some muesli. So instead of 3 pounds of flax, we have 3 pounds of muesli for you today. And you also see a little Buddha statue, flowers, this guy sitting here. You see all these objects, and each of these objects, they are seen by you in what? In consciousness, in your aware space, which is referred to then as the sky in the metaphor. So all these objects are clouds which appear in your blue sky. Or sounds. I can make a few sounds here. These little sounds, they appear in you, the viewer, in what? They appear in you in the same space which we call sky, but this time it's an acoustic space. We also have smells. You can smell a rose. A sensation comes up in you, but comes up in you in what? In the same thing. It's like in the sky. So the smell would be like the cloud. The one observing would be the sky. Or you can have tastes. I can grab a little muesli here, a little raisin. It creates an explosion in my mouth, which is the taste. But this explosion is observed in the same sky. So here the raisin taste is the cloud and the sky is that space. Or feelings. Maybe you have anger feeling or just a sensation feeling while rubbing your hand. They all appear somewhere in you. They appear in what? They appear in sky. And the feelings can then be compared as clouds. And even more so, thoughts. Thoughts just appear in you, like you can think about a white elephant. A white elephant, the image comes up to you like a cloud hanging in your sky. So the sky, in other words, is like the overall container of all objects of observation. And it contains, therefore, all clouds. And from a superficial perspective, you may regard the sky as some kind of a blue background. And in front of it you have these cotton clouds in white, as if they were separate. But when you look a second time, when you look at it more deeply, you find that the clouds are actually sky. The sky doesn't stop when the cloud starts. So there are all these hanging clouds, part of the sky. Intrinsically they are sky. Also important, all clouds get formed in the sky, the water vapor suddenly condenses, and they also dissolve in sky. And the same would be with the sounds appearing in the sky. They come in the sky, they disappear. Thoughts, we spoke about the white elephant, it appears and it disappears, etc. So now that we discussed a little bit about the koan question, what is Buddha? Let's have a closer look at Tozan's response. A monk asked Tozan, what is the Buddha? So in other words, what is sky? But instead of starting to give a long explanation about sky and clouds like I just did, Tozan just said 3 pounds of flax. This little cloud here, this object you see, that's Buddha. That is sky. So many people are puzzled by this response. And yourself, you may also wonder, how come? How can you compare the cloud, which is small, limited, has color, characteristics, with that in which it appears, which is the sky, which is boundless, which is infinite, which is colorless, which is formless? And that is exactly what is being suggested here. The koan seems to want to shatter this beautiful metaphor which I elaborated upon, and it startles us. You got this long winding explanation from me, and Tozan is just ripping it apart when he says, this flax here, muesli actually, this is the sky. And you're like, what? What the hell? I thought I understood. Thanks to the metaphor, I had understood the sky. And now I'm being told this is the sky? Come on, give me a break. And that is exactly what the koan tries to do. In fact, we have to admit, every metaphor that we would try to invent will break down at one point or the other. Consciousness, Buddha nature, God, cannot be captured in words. in long explanations, as it is that from which words and thoughts originate. The sky metaphor, which I elaborated at the beginning of this video, is itself a long story, an image that gets created by your thinking mind and gets inflated like a balloon. But that balloon originates from a concentrated point called here and now. And that point, which I sometimes refer to as the still point, is immediate. You can only know it when you let go of all winding blah blah and concentrate on the now, on what is right in front of your nose. And Tozan was probably producing a monk's robe, weaving flax material or whatever he was doing. And then asked the question, what is Buddha? And instead of stopping his work and say, well, there is the sky and there is the clouds and la la la, he said, here, 3 pounds of flax, right there, right here. Maybe he was just walking in the market. Maybe he was not weaving. Okay, so he was walking in the market and he was just passing flax and he was just pointing at it. It doesn't matter what the exact circumstances were in which Tozan happened to be, but it was immediate, without hesitation, and to the point, to the still point. So let us now continue with the koan text. We now have Mumon's comment. Old Tozan showed off a bit of clamzen. He opened the 2 halves of the shell a little and exposed the liver and the intestines inside. As I said, this koan is not so easy to understand through our thinking mind, through our metaphors. That's why it's been compared a little bit like a closed clam, difficult to grasp. If you try to conceptualize it, you cannot comprehend this koan. Yet, if you understand the here and now, the concentrated point, the still point, that's what this koan is all about. And the text continues, but tell me then, where do you see Tozan? You can see Tozan like you see 3 pounds of flax. It's all part of your sky on the one hand, and that sky is right in the here and now, in the still point, in the immediacy. We still have the verse. 3 pounds of flax came sweeping along. Intimate were the words, but even more intimate is the mind. Sweeping along, we already said it, without the thinking mind coming in between, instantaneously. And in Zen circles, we use the word mind often to refer to consciousness, to awareness, or to sky. That is, it's even more intimate. That's really our true nature. So the words may be intimate, but the real mind, the real consciousness is even closer, especially when you think about it not as a grand sky, but rather as a still point. Those who argue about right and wrong are those enslaved by right and wrong. Indeed, we better stop talking about these matters. This talking monkey over here is enslaving me and you in a dualistic world where clouds are separate, where right is different from wrong, where animate is different from inanimate, where 3 pounds of flax is outside of yourself. So the one arguing right and wrong is the one being right and wrong. And that one happens to be also having its source in this concentrated still point. Thank you. And if you have a moment, think about those matters for yourself and check out that long explanations and metaphors, even though they may be very beautiful, like the sky and the clouds, are often more misleading, and that being in the moment, concentrated in the now, that is what our practice is all about. And that would give you a sense and a taste of this here and now. Thank you.